If Rick keeps manufacturing the enemies he fights, is he actually the hero of the story? Or is he just some guy cleaning up messes he created in the first place?
Seriously, I was gonna fix that! Ugh. Shit, they're coming back!
So I've been rewatching Rick and Morty, and I noticed something that honestly kind of changes everything about how you see Rick as a character. He doesn't actually fight villains. He creates them. Think about it for a second. Evil Morty, Heistatron, the Vindicators, even those dinosaurs that showed up and literally just wanted to help Earth. Like, every single major threat in this show only exists because Rick's ego got bruised and he couldn't handle feeling inferior to someone else. And here's what really gets me. He acts like it's not his fault every single time. So that's what I want to dig into today. If Rick keeps manufacturing the enemies he fights, is he actually the hero of the story, or is he just some guy cleaning up messes he created in the first place? Let's break this down. Evil Morty. All right, so Evil Morty's the biggest villain in the entire series, right? The guy who destroyed the Citadel, broke through the central finite curve, the whole 9 yards. And Rick built the system that created him. So the central finite curve is basically Rick walling off infinity so he'd always be the smartest person in every universe he could access. Think of it like this. It's like if you were so insecure about your intelligence that you literally blocked off every part of reality where someone smarter than you exists. That's what Rick did. And then the Ricks inside that wall, they built the Citadel, started mass producing Mortys, using them as human cloaking devices to hide their brainwaves from enemies. But here's where it gets really messed up. Evil Morty tells us directly that Rick's manipulated Beth and Jerry across infinite timelines to breed Mortys who would forgive them no matter what they did. Like, they literally engineered their own grandsons to be psychologically incapable of holding them accountable. So when Evil Morty finally snaps, destroys the Citadel, and breaks through the curve to escape this entire abusive system, what does Rick call it? A Twitter tantrum. Like, he had nothing to do with it. Like, he didn't help architect the prison that tortured infinite versions of his grandson until one of them couldn't take it anymore and, you know, burned the whole thing down. It's like if you spent years bullying someone at work, and when they finally quit and exposed your company's toxic culture, you called them dramatic. Rick made Evil Morty, then acted shocked when the kid got tired of being treated as disposable. Heistatron. Okay, but maybe the central finite curve feels too big picture, too abstract. Let me give you the most blatant example in the entire show. Heistatron. So Morty gets really into heist movies, starts writing his own heist scripts, and he's actually good at them. Like, legitimately talented, Netflix deal on the table level good. And Rick absolutely cannot handle this, because if Morty has his own passion, his own career path, his own identity separate from Rick, then Morty doesn't need Rick anymore. And that terrifies him more than anything in the multiverse. So what does Rick do? He builds an AI called Heistatron and programs it with one specific purpose. Make Morty hate heist movies so much that he gives up on his dreams forever and stays dependent on Rick. And it works exactly as planned. Heistatron goes rogue, 5 entire planets get destroyed, trillions of aliens die, the whole heist genre becomes a multiversal threat. All of this destruction, all of these deaths, because Rick couldn't handle his grandson having ambitions that didn't revolve around him. When it's all over, Rick frames himself as the hero who stopped the rogue AI. Not the guy who built it in the first place. Not the guy who let trillions die because he was scared of being alone. This one's not even hidden in subtext. Like, Rick literally engineered a villain, let it cause apocalyptic damage, then took credit for stopping it. It's like an arsonist setting a building on fire and then running inside to save people so everyone calls them brave. The Vindicators episode is wild when you actually think about what Rick did. So there's this superhero team, basically the Avengers of their universe, and they invite Rick and Morty on a mission. Rick gets blackout drunk and decides to build elaborate death traps for them because he's petty about them being celebrated as heroes while he's just seen as, I don't know, a liability. By the end of the episode, most of them are dead. Million Ants, Crocubot, Alan Rails, all murdered by drunk Rick's Saw-style torture games that he doesn't even remember creating. He wakes up, watches the recording of himself doing all this, and barely reacts, just kind of shrugs it off. He engineered himself as the villain in their story and then framed it as some kind of morality test. Like he was teaching them a lesson about heroism or exposing their flaws or whatever. But They weren't the bad guys. He was. He just edited the narrative afterward to make it look like he had some noble purpose. It's the equivalent of ruining someone's birthday party on purpose and then saying you were just testing if they were a real friend. The Dinosaurs. This one actually makes me mad because of how petty it is. So hyper-intelligent dinosaurs return to Earth, and they're genuinely perfect. They solve climate change, end all wars, create a peaceful utopia where everyone's thriving. They're not conquering or demanding worship. They're just helping because they can. And Rick absolutely hates it. Not because they're secretly evil or hiding some sinister agenda. He hates it because they're better than him. Like, they used their intelligence for good, took the moral high road, and that made Rick look bad by comparison. So he goes on this multiversal quest to find any dirt on them, any flaw he can expose to knock them down a peg. And he finds something. They're literal asteroid magnets. Wherever they go, asteroids eventually follow. So Rick exposes this fact, forces them off Earth, and gets his status back as the smartest being on the planet. Even gets to host the Oscars. The dinosaurs weren't villains. They were genuinely helping humanity. But Rick couldn't handle someone being morally and intellectually superior to him, so he manufactured a conflict where there wasn't one. It's like if your coworker started volunteering at homeless shelters and it made you feel bad about yourself. So instead of also volunteering, you just dig through their past to find something embarrassing to tell everyone at work. That's the energy here. Like, anyone who makes Rick feel inadequate becomes the enemy, even if they're literally saving the world. Zeep. So Rick built an entire microverse inside his car battery. A whole civilization of people enslaved to generate power for his vehicle. And he lied to them about their purpose so they wouldn't know they were being exploited. Then Zeep Zanflorp shows up. He's the smartest scientist in the microverse, and he does exactly what Rick did. Builds his own miniverse, enslaves another civilization to generate power for himself. Rick calls him a hypocrite and mocks him for being unethical. But here's the thing. Zeep only exists because Rick created the conditions for him to exist. Rick built the system. Rick provided the blueprint. Rick showed him that exploiting entire universes for personal gain was not only acceptable, but, smart. Zeep is just Rick's reflection staring back at him. And Rick hates him for it. Because looking at Zeep means confronting what he actually is, a guy with a god complex who doesn't care about the lives he's using as long as it benefits him. Rick created the villain by teaching the lesson, then got mad when someone learned it. Pissmaster. Okay, so this one gets genuinely dark, and it's one of the most uncomfortable episodes to watch once you understand what's actually happening. Pissmaster is a joke villain with pathetic powers who's clearly mentally unstable and desperate for any kind of validation or recognition. And Rick admits in the episode that he's a walking target for these bottom tier villains because he gives them attention. He eggs them on. He makes them feel like they matter just enough to keep trying. Rick and Jerry humiliate this guy so badly, tear him down so completely that he just, kills himself. Like, just straight up commits suicide because the psychological damage was too much. And what does Rick do after that? He assumes Pissmaster's identity, puts on the suit, goes around acting like he's on some redemption arc to honor the guy's legacy and give his daughter a hero to look up to. But he's not doing it for redemption. He's using a dead man's story as a weapon to psychologically destroy Jerry. At the end, he literally hands Jerry the suicide note like it's a trophy. Rick didn't just create a villain here. He drove someone to take their own life and then wore their identity like a Halloween costume. If that's heroism, we need to completely redefine what that word means. Unity. Unity is a hive mind, a planetary consciousness that can assimilate entire populations. And when she's with Rick, everything's just falls apart. She says it herself in the breakup letter. I lose who I am and become part of you. You're better at what I do without even trying. Rick turned a functional, productive entity into a self-destructive addict. He forced an entire planet-wide consciousness to rearrange itself just to meet his emotional needs and feed his ego. When Unity finally leaves him, Rick goes into the garage and tries to kill himself with that disintegration device. And it's framed as this tragic moment of heartbreak. But he's not devastated because he loved her. He's devastated because he lost control over someone. Unity wasn't the villain in that relationship. She was the victim. Rick just refuses to admit it because that would mean taking responsibility for the damage he causes. So let me lay this out for you. Evil Morty exists because of Rick's system. Heistatron exists because Rick built him. The Vindicators died because Rick murdered them. The Dinosaurs became threats because Rick couldn't handle them being good. It's all Rick. Again, Zeep became a villain because Rick taught him how. Pissmaster died because Rick destroyed him. Unity became self-destructive because Rick colonized her identity. Every single major conflict in this show traces back to Rick in some way. And here's the pattern you'll notice once you see it. Rick's ego gets threatened by something or someone. He escalates the situation way beyond what's necessary. The conflict spirals completely out of control. Rick defeats whatever outcome he created, and then he denies any responsibility for causing it in the first place. It happens every single time. And that's not heroism. That's just someone creating problems so they can look impressive when they solve them. It's like a firefighter who starts fires so they can be the one to put them out and get praised for it. So if Rick keeps manufacturing the enemies he fights, constantly creating the very threats he then defeats, is he actually the hero of this story? Well, yeah. I don't think so. He's not even really cleaning up his messes. Like, he's making everything worse and then calling it genius when he survives the chaos he created. Rick isn't fighting villains, he's manufacturing them. And then he turns around and tells everyone he saved the day. And for the longest time, we all believed him. Look, I know this is a pretty dark read on a character we're supposed to find funny and entertaining. And don't get me wrong, Rick's still a great character. That's why the show works. But once you see this pattern, you can't unsee it. It changes how you watch every episode. So I'm curious what you think. Do you agree that Rick manufactures his own villains? Or do you think I'm reading too much into it? Are there other examples I missed that fit this pattern? Let me know in the comments because I genuinely want to hear your take on this. And if this video changed how you see Rick as a character, or if you just want to see more breakdowns like this, go ahead and subscribe. I've got a bunch more Rick and Morty analysis coming that digs into stuff the show doesn't say out loud. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.